podcast. No longer named tentative because nobody objected, so that's what we're going to stick with. This is episode 10. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about jobs and the changes and how that might interact with the Eden raid. Joining me, I am Reggie Alarm, and joining me today are my co-host, Jay Black of Gilgamesh.
What's up?
Jin Woo of Gilgamesh.
Hello.
And the lovely Toasty Rage of Gilgamesh.
Hello.
All right. So that being said, we've kind of took a little hiatus. The game's really good, but there's a lot of saturation on social media and YouTube about kind of a little bit of everything, story and like Eden raid predictions and speculation, and we don't really cater to that kind of audience. We try to just focus on things that we're interested in, and I mean, we are interested in those things, but we're not interested in like being at the heels of Happy and work to game and stuff like that. We kind of want to do our own thing. So we all decided that we were going to talk about jobs today. And to head us off, to lead us, as it were, will be Jabe. Jabe has leveled 3 of the tanks to 80, and he's working on Paladin right now, and he's got it to 73. So I would say that he's got a pretty good idea of tanking, and, I'd like to hear what he has to say about that and raid. Go ahead, Jabe. Kick us off.
Well, I guess the first thing to address is the idea of, readdress the idea of whether tanks have been made easier. And I mean, the only thing that is easier is the enmity. And it's just, you click a button, you got it, you're good. And that's all that needs to be said about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, tank swapping is a thing. From what we've been seeing in the extremes, as long as you're watching your threat, you even the off tank can have their tank stance on for a little bit after the main tank gets the threat. And as long as you're watching, when you're tank swapping, it's not that big a deal. You can we've actually kind of just been having it toggled on the whole time. And if Scythe gets too high, he can always shirk me a little bit. So it's really not that big a deal. Just pay attention to it, toggle it off if you're too high. If you're tanking, you keep it on at all times. I don't know why anyone would not have their tank stance on while they're main tanking. There's no reason not to have it on. There's zero. I told that to somebody, and they're like, "I'm really surprised you said that." I'm like, "Well, just look at it. Why would you ever toggle it off if you're the main tank?" So there's no repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as everything else goes, cooldown wise, I did watch Xeno's comparison about the different cooldowns and his impressions. And it seems like he mostly talked about their mitigation factors. He did talk about some rotational things, but very few. But from what he said, I pretty much agree with most of what he said, not everything what he said. So for Gunbreaker, we all know Gunbreaker's fun. Everybody's been saying it. Gunbreaker's the bee's knees. It's the fastest, or no, I won't say fastest. I'll say most actions per minute probably.
I wouldn't say fastest, but it does have like a huge interaction on weaving GCDs every now and then.
Yeah, it's got that continuation combo. So, and you got that every 30 seconds basically, and you got that. It's basically every other continuation. You have your No Mercy and your dot, or both your dots, and it's actually not too bad once you get the hang of it. It's pretty cool. Mitigation wise, like we said, it's still pretty on par with everything. So you got your Heart of Stone and stuff. You got your Aurora, and that's all good. I try to use that, like while the auto attacks are coming out, and then if you time it right, you can get your Heart of Stone with some autos and also have it for busters. So that's always good to do, having your mitigation spaced out so that you're getting all the mitigation you can get.
I do love the Heart of Stone, how it is 25 seconds, and it's a pretty, I mean, it's a short duration, but it's like you said, it's perfect for tank busters.
Yeah, you can literally pop it with like one of the other cooldowns every time. It seems like it might be over mitigating it, but honestly, it just helps out everybody. So it kind of feels that way. So, but I do want to talk about Dark Knight a little bit, like a couple things about Dark Knight. The one thing I didn't agree with Zeno about, and I'm just referencing him, is because like I respect his ideas and stuff. But one thing I don't really agree is I understand why the Blackest Night might feel bad to some people, but for me it feels like it is where it should be, even if it is only a neutral gain. Because I feel like Dark Knight, and this is all kind of like opinion based, it's not really thinking about it from like the hardcore maxing minning stuff. For me, the Dark Knight has always been, if you play Dark Knight, you play it to show some kind of skill in your decision making. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that people are saying, well, the Blackest Night is a gamble, and if it's a gamble, you lose a lot of DPS. Well, for me, that gamble shows whether you had the presence of mind or the skill to recognize when to use it right. So that's how I feel about the Blackest Night. I don't think it's bad at all. So I just think it just requires a little bit more effort, a little bit more forethought. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I feel the same way about Living Dead, but Living Dead hasn't changed at all. It's the same as it's always been. So I just feel like the effort and the forethought for Dark Knight have always been a part of the job, and I appreciate that about that job.
Is it still 25% of its HP?
Yeah, the shield is super strong, right? So the mitigative power is super strong.
Everyone's been saying the same thing. It's like, just pop TBN. It just does a lot of mitigation. And sometimes they don't even get to pop it in the first place, the enemies.
So this is what I found. If you pop the Blackest Night during like even in a dungeon, right? Okay, let's take it to the smallest effort content. If you even pop it in a dungeon, obviously you're popping it during the trash pools, because if you're pulling wall to wall, you're always popping it off cooldown.
Yeah.
So because it's gonna break. And if you're on a boss, either you're gonna pop it on a buster, or you're gonna pop it during AOE damage, and right after that AOE damage, the auto attack is gonna break.
Yeah.
So, but you can't just use it on auto attacks, because it's not gonna break if you do that.
Yeah, of course.
So I mean, that's just like me not even trying to like min max it, just going into a dungeon, seeing where I can pop it. This is how I've been using it, So I feel like the Blackest Night has really strong mitigative properties. I think it could be really good during prog. Just so, because maybe you can stay alive. I think it would allow you to stay alive a little bit more than some of those other cooldowns over Heart of Stone and in Raw Intuition and Sheltron, because
Yeah.
I kind of clump all those into the same category, you know. So I feel like the Blackest Night would have the most survivability if, you know, you're like in a clutch situation. You're just trying to see that next mechanic in a prog situation. The Blackest Night affords a lot there, I think, in my opinion. So, and I mean, you guys know my opinion on the DPS meters. Like, I'm glad they're there. I don't disagree with them. I just personally don't care about my numbers very much.
Yeah.
So like, as long as we're killing the fight, as long as we're getting it down, and I'm trying to put in maximum effort without, min-maxing my numbers.
Maximum effort.
Yeah, well, yeah. But so for me, the DPS of the different tanks is really kind of a non-issue. I'm glad people like to play things for high numbers. You guys do that. I just enjoy all the tanks in all their different facets. So, and each one does feel like its own tank, even though, because let's be honest, the rotations, if you broke down the rotations, you could say, oh, well, this part of this rotation is just like the other part of the other tank's rotation.
Yeah.
It's just like, but at the same time, they got just that little bit of nuance to make it feel like, oh yeah, I'm playing a Dark Knight, I'm playing a Warrior. Even though people meme and say they're the same thing, like, I feel the difference.
Yeah.
Dark Knight to me is OGCD, or sorry, yeah, OGCD the tank. That's what Dark Knight is. Warrior is kind of like you got your Infuriates. You got to pop your Infuriates outside of your inner release window, and so you're not really getting too many OGCDs. There's just Upheaval and Onslaught. You know what I'm saying? And all the tanks got the cooldowns, right? The defensive cooldowns. So I don't really count those when I'm talking about DPS rotation. So that's how I feel about the tanks right now. I think as far as rating goes, I think tanks are going to have a good time. I think the fights are going to be good and key to challenge the tanks. And I feel like they will. I think people are really going to enjoy tanking in this expansion. That's my personal opinion in the raid setting, really overall. So whether you're raiding or whether you're not raiding. So do you guys have any specific questions about the tanks that you specifically wanted me to talk about?
What do you lean more towards? Like, what are you enjoying more for high-end content?
I'm liking Gunbreaker a lot, just because it literally feels like the DPS tank. You know what I'm saying?
The Invuln seems a lot better too than Home Gang.
Yes,
I enjoy it a lot more.
So I think it's pronounced Superbolide. I know everybody's been calling it Superbolide, but I think it's called Superbolide is how you actually say it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty good. Everybody was dogging on it. I wasn't. I wasn't I looked at it and I was like, well, you're Invuln, and you can get it back up. I saw that and I was like, I'm not too worried about it. And everybody, but the whole thing is, everybody was like, well, it just sucks in comparison to Hollow Ground, and I'm like, well, everything
sucks.
Everything sucks.
Okay, so when I say that, I don't mean that it's the strongest cooldown. I mean it's the strongest effect, right? So everybody's like, no, Home Gang is the best, and I'm like, well, yeah, the cooldown thing, right? Because it has such a lower cooldown. But at the same time, like if you're comparing the effect and how it feels, like you don't get any beefier than when you pop Hollowed Ground and you're just invincible for 10 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So that the effect is the strongest. And basically Superbolide has that same effect, except it drops your HP to 1 and it only lasts for 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So the cooldown is shorter too, so that's good. I think that sacrifice with the 1 minute less cooldown is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It works out just fine. So, and they did kind of nerf Gang a little bit, but honestly, you're not gonna really notice it that much. So you can't pop it as often. Like you're still popping it almost twice as much as everything else. So
Yeah.
What's the cooldown on it? 360
it's
seconds.
I believe it's 4 minutes now.
4 minutes.
I think, yeah.
Compared to Hollow Ground, that would be what? 6 minutes? 7 minutes?
7.
Right.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Hollowed is 7.
Yeah.
And Superbolide is 6. And
360.
then yeah. So, and obviously, everybody knows that the Living Dead is the worst of the tank and bones.
Yeah.
Just make it like 75%. Make it 90%. I like.
See, Sora and I were debating about it, and I'm like, I understand that it is the worst, but I'm okay with it being that way. And
Yeah.
that's because of what I said before. It takes more effort. It takes more forethought. If you're gonna use it, you need to use it correctly.
Yeah.
Every other tank in Vuln you can use in an emergency situation, and you're probably gonna live. Living Dead, if you use it in an emergency situation, you're gonna live for the 10 seconds, and then you're probably the 10.
I don't
Walking
mind it
Dead
as a white mage,
procs.
but when you have a Scholar Astro comp, I do feel like Living Dead is a little too much to handle with just OGCDs. Kind of like that one day when me and Sora were trying to plan out the what is it, Sinistry, and then you do Benny 2 and quickly do ED to get that like benefit from low HP, and it's fine and everything, but you don't need to do all that with all the other tanks, and that's why it kind of just seems a little more needy to me on Astro. On White Mage, I don't give a shit. But
Yeah. And see, I'm not sure people think about this, but I'm absolutely positive that the devs did that on purpose. Although,
yeah,
Astro being as good as it is, this is all just from what I've heard you guys say. I'm not sure they intended that. So,
I think the double ED on paper seemed like it was going to be a solution to Living Dead, but obviously in practice that wasn't working out for us. So
yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, I was thinking about doing Dark Knight, but I think I'll just go Gunbreaker for now. Because first of all, gotta get that tank mount.
Wait, there's a tank mount?
Got priorities, right? Gotta get that tank.
What is the tank mount?
It's the saber-tooth tiger.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's neat.
Who needs to do fucking 3,000 hunts?
Yeah, right.
Well, that one is the Centrino Tiger is the hunt one, and then I think it's like, it looks more like those. So in Lakeland, you got those saber-tooth. I don't know how to pronounce it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Starts with an S.
Yeah.
Smilodon, something like that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's a
it's
Leopleurodon, Charlie.
Yeah.
It's Leopleurodon, Charlie.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's basically it. That's the tank mount for Gunbreaker.
Okay.
So I think I was like only two instances away from the 100 mark. So
Nice.
Can I just add one thing about Gunbreaker?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we already talked about mitigation. The rotations are pretty streamlined. I just like that Gunbreaker is like this one tank, the only tank out of all the other tanks that's not the one running on trick attack. You fucking gotta do your fucking cartridges and everything, and it's like, oh wait, you gotta do for trick attack for a bigger burst. No, buddy, I'm doing my combo right now. I'm gonna go fucking ham. It's like I don't wait for anything. I have my own thing to do. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like when I play Gunbreaker.
if
It's
you
like-
line it up right, though, you can hit it
Yeah.
on every trick.
What's that? You didn't line up trick attack properly? I'm sorry, buddy. I'm in the middle of my fucking Gnashing Fang combo. It sucks to be you. That's what it feels like. The cartridges needed to be. The cartridges being two actually makes it a little easier on my mind. I don't know what you do with Bloodfest. I just do it for like 2 extra burst strikes, or if I really need to do something like I don't know, consecutive Theta circles.
So like I said, I haven't min-maxed the rotation,
Yeah.
the nuance of the highest DPS.
Yeah.
Honestly, what I do is I save the cartridges until I have to use them. So,
Yeah. Remember, like-
I mean, obviously you don't hold Bloodfest. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Yeah.
about I make sure that when it's about to come up, I don't have any cartridges. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm holding my cartridges till I need them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I believe there is a window. So right after your No Mercy window, you do that and you do your continuation combo.
Yeah.
After you do that round, I think you can just blow your cartridges, and then you just need to make sure you have a cartridge for your next continuation combo.
Yeah.
So, but after that second continuation combo, I kind of just hold on to them until my No Mercies come.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. I kind of like, if I'm at like 16 seconds on my Gnashing Fang or above that, I just do Burst Strike, and then I line up the next ones with for next incoming No Mercy or whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Also, Blasting Stone is fucking amazing.
Yeah, man. When they changed that, like when Soken changed the sound on that thing,
Yeah.
like I noticed it. I was just like, I came in the next day and I saw it. Like I legit saw it on the patch notes,
Yeah.
and I was like, for real though, like why? Why would people complain about this? And then I listened to it, and then I was like, oh, yeah, no, that was right. Good job.
The community did something good for once. Yay!
Yeah, no, it feels good. Even though I'm not gonna lie, like the sound effects on the general continuation combo, if you ever kind of or just going through the rotation, some of them sound a little weak, but that
Yeah.
blasting zone is right on target, man.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Explodey boy.
So have you got? So Jen's done it. Have you guys done it at all?
I got Gunbreaker to 73, and what I can say with leveling it was that anything below like 60 really sucks. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
just awful because you don't have your tools. But
Yeah.
like 60 and above, I mean, it really turns up when you get to 70. That's when you get to 70, it's like it's awesome.
Yeah, you got everything except for Bloodfest and Blasting Zone, pretty much.
But like
So-
before then, I was kind of like, dude, I don't know if I could play this tank. And then when I got to 70, I'm like, I can play this tank. I play the
I
shit
don't
out of
know.
this tank.
I don't know how, but I think I avoided anything below 60 while I was leveling it. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. So,
He just pumped out those leveling dungeons.
yeah, I straight up was just queuing the highest dungeon I could. So, I did it in a day, pretty much. 60 to 80.
But I switched to Warrior because we were leveling Gunbreaker and Dancer together, and then we just kind of got bored, so we switched it up. Toasty's leveling Black Mage now. I'm leveling Warrior.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm like, I'm not really sure. You know, I haven't gotten War to 80. I like War aesthetically, and I'll probably play it even if it is shit because I like it.
So war hasn't really changed much, right?
Yeah.
There hasn't really been any changes to it. But okay, so before you get nascent flash, it just feels horrible trying to do big pools in dungeons. Cause I mean you got vengeance, you
Rampart.
got rampart, and you got raw intuition.
Oh yeah, it has
I
the
mean
least
you got
cooldowns, doesn't it?
I mean you got home gang for emergencies, but you don't really want to use it in the pug dungeon situation, right? So
Yeah.
but before nascent flash, it just doesn't feel. I would not recommend people who aren't familiar with tanking doing large pools on warrior in a pug situation. I would not recommend that.
So, what is Nascent Flash for those who don't know?
So yeah, let me talk. Nascent Flash, it's kind of got like two different effects, right? It's Nascent Flash and Nascent Glint. And what you do is you put it on someone, all right, and it shares a cooldown with raw intuition. So your choice is raw intuition or Nascent Flash plus Nascent Glint. And basically, in a solo, like if you're doing a boss and you're gonna pick a cooldown, you're probably gonna pick raw intuition because it's just flat damage reduction. When you're when you're pulling a bunch of mobs, I would recommend using Nascent Flash right before you're about to do either an infuriate, like a double infuriate, or your inner release. It's not gonna last the whole time, but it's gonna last long enough to get you some decent HP, because that's what its effect is, right? Basically, think about Bloodbath, but shorter, but a lot more powerful because all of the damage you're doing is returning to you as health. Whereas that's the Nascent Flash, and the Nascent Glint is what you put on somebody else, and it's basically giving them a flat damage reduction. I believe it's 10%, and then 50% of the damage they do comes back to them as HP. So it's really good. If you're
Wow.
off tanking as warrior, you can throw Nascent Flash on somebody, give them Nascent Glint, you got Nascent Flash, and you're both getting HP back, right? So it's really good for that situation. Also really good when you're in an AoE situation in dungeons. But otherwise, you're going to use raw intuition for that flat damage. Unless it's like an emergency. But if it's an emergency and you have to throw Nascent Flash on somebody to get HP back, it's kind of like, how did we get in this situation? You know what I'm saying?
Probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah. It's like either the healer died and you're man moding it at this point, or the healer. Basically, it comes down to the healer failed. I think.
Yeah.
So, or you weren't using your cooldowns, but that doesn't make sense because why would you know how to use Nascent Flash if you knew how to use your cooldowns? So, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's my feeling on Nascent Flash. I like it as a concept. It's kind of short, right? But if you use it to maximum effect, you're mitigating some of that damage by getting some health back. So it's basically, and you get it, every what is how is 25 seconds? I think is what it is. Can't remember.
25 seconds would probably be really good.
Yeah, it shares a cooldown with raw intuition. So
Interesting.
yeah. So like I was saying, you choose that or raw intuition, and they have the same cooldown. So it's a really short cooldown, and you can use it most of the time to get yourself some health back, especially when you have big packs of mobs. So
Well, that's good information. It's good to know.
Yeah. See, and that's where I feel like Dark Knight really shines in that situation too, because of the Blackest Night. If you're in a pack situation, literally there's no reason for you not to be popping the Blackest Night, because it's gonna pop unless a white mage is holding the pack. You gotta
No.
watch out for that white mage. If they're holding the pack, you just wait and then pop it after the stun diminishing return is gone. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So that
Yeah.
I feel like that's my general overview. I don't really have too much more to say on them unless you guys have specific questions.
I know we don't have like our paladin connoisseur over here, but what do you feel with paladin far?
I've got it to 73. I'm super looking forward to Confiteor. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's how you say that.
Yeah.
The moment I saw that in the job action video, I was like, oh, tactics, let's go. And I was, because that's like the
Yeah, it
holy
sounds
sword
like
ability.
it sounds like the I forgot what
It's
it's
like a
called.
holy sword ability that you get, that the Holy Knight gets in tactics. And I was like, I was super excited when I saw it, and I'm really sad that I don't have it fully leveled, and that it's just because I've been trying to prep so hard. So but yeah, I'm gonna get it up, and everything I've seen so far is enjoyable. The AoE rotation, super enjoyable. I got the Holy Circle. That's fun too. I don't have Instacast yet, but I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. And then everything else is pretty much the same that I can think of. The cover changes. What Scythe was saying that one time when we were talking about doing potential cover strats, or when I tried to think about it, he said it was basically that cover is really just kind of to save the DPS or the healers that put themselves in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to use it to cheese strat anymore. It's not really effective for that. But I mean, it is usable if the other tank is going to die or something like that.
Yeah.
So it'd be good for that. The using gauge thing, from what I'm telling, you get gauge pretty quick. It's pretty consistent from what I'm seeing so far. Like, I don't think the gauge cost is that big a deal. Until it is, you know what I'm saying? But I think if you're gonna need it, you're gonna have the gauge, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that. But that's me looking at it from how other people have been playing, and just me doing it in the dungeons, like seeing how much gauge I get all the time. I feel like I'm popping Sheltron all the time. So
Wow.
when I'm in the dungeons. So I'm not too worried about that. And everything, I mean, other than that, everything's basically the same. Getting rid of, I mean, making the combos the way they are is fine. Getting rid of the Holone combo was fine. It didn't, I mean, it's just a low level combo now. So when you get up, you got Royal Authority. That's it. One thing I didn't say that I just want to put out there and make sure everybody knows about it. Arm's length. You should be using that. Everybody should be using that, specifically like when you're pulling dungeons and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's not going to work on bosses, but that slow effect is pretty good. You pretty much should be using your mitigation rotation during pack pulls. So
Okay.
yeah, it helps. I mean, it helps because I forget how long the slow lasts. I think it's at least 10 seconds though. It's at 5-10 seconds somewhere in there.
Is it slow or is it heavy?
It's slow.
We're talking about like whole minutes or switch.
So no. I'm talking about arm's length, the roll action, arm's length.
Yeah.
So it's knockback prevention, right? But it also, if the mob hits you it puts a slow on while
Yep,
it's
there
up.
is.
Oh, okay.
So
That's pretty cool.
it slows their attack.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
got
their
you.
ECDs become slower.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the mobs in Whole Miniature Switch, I know what you're talking about. The gremlins, they do put a slow on the tank, which please Azuna that. I don't know how many times I've done
Oh my
that.
god, I fucking hate that shit.
Ugh, it's so annoying. It's like you wonder you got a regen on me and you're wondering why the thing's hitting you. Well, it's because I'm slowed and I can't hit it.
Yep.
So
So I actually figured out a way to combat so Toasty and I were running. I was doing my Gunbreaker. We were running Whole Minister Switch, and I kept getting slowed. And then the consequence was dying because the healer I had, I basically I was joking around with him, and I deduced that he was from Warcraft.
He had no idea how to use Asuna. I just said use Asuna on the tank, and even when there's nothing to Asuna after that, he just kept using Asuna.
So
Rip.
to kind of like match the language, Dispel is actually the command for like Asuna. That's the direct the equivalent spell for that.
Yeah.
And I would have said that, but I forgot. But yeah, I was just I'm like watching him heal, and he's the robot healer that kind of sits in the corner and was just doing the cures, right? And then doing cure 2 every time it procs. And I was like, that's a very like World of Warcraft kind of way of healing, because in Warcraft you have like, it's been a while since I played, so if any Warcraft players are in here, like, don't jump down my throat too hard. But when I played, there was lesser heal, and greater heal. And you kind of like, you had to figure out, you didn't do what white mages do in this game, where they do like cure 2 and then they keep DPSing. You know what I mean? They would just sit there and spam lesser heal just to kind of keep HP on the tank. They did renew, which was regen. And I'm watching him play, and I was just like, yeah, I'm from Warcraft 2. And he's like, yeah, Warcraft, So, but yeah, that was quite the pain. A little off topic, but have you and Scythe decided how you guys gonna approach it? Like the first set of Eden raids, you gonna approach that as like Gunbreaker Paladin, and then just kind of switch off depending on what the fight calls for?
I think that's the plan. I'm probably just gonna take Gunbreaker in, and I'm pretty sure Scythe's gonna do Paladin. So I'm pretty sure that's the way we're gonna do it. As for switching, like, I don't really know. So everybody thinks this is gonna be creator level difficulty. And if it is, I don't foresee very much reason to swap unless we're optimizing speed killing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for speed killing, I'll definitely be flexible in switching whichever one is more powerful for whichever fight. But as for prog, I think I'm just gonna do Gunbreaker for now.
I mean, that's a pretty safe bet. You got all those tools that help with healing. They help with damage mitigation, things like that. Like, that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. So I feel that's the way we're going there. So yeah, I don't think there's much else I can say.
Well,
about.
Time for the healers to talk about healing.
Sure, we'll talk about healing. So, we started Shadowbringers. We leveled Summoner and Astrologian. That way, I could level Scholar and not have to worry about not being able to play the game with Toasty. So we did that. There was a couple issues that Toasty found out right away. Go ahead, babe.
My main issue with Astro, and I've pretty much beat it to death with Sora, on this discussion, but divination is pretty flaccid in its current form, and it's like I'm not even really mad about the opener. What actually makes me mad about the class and frustrates the hell out of me is the later divinations, because you have 180 seconds between your first divination and your second divination to get your 3 seals. 99% of the time, it is not a problem to get 3 different seals in that kind of time frame. And so after that, in order to optimize your divination, you would want to throw out minor arcanas. And to get a minor arcana, that's already 2 GCDs or OGCDs that you have to weave. So it would be Malefic, draw, minor arcana, Malefic, throw, draw, Malefic. It's constant double weaving for very little payoff. And I considered myself before the expansion very much an Astro loyalist. And even if we were given really shit damage, which I totally expected, we started off in Deltascape with very, very little damage, and it doesn't bother me. I know it bothers Sora a little much. He wants the healers to be even and all that, but I mean, I don't mind lower personal DPS. We are a buffer class. We're there to buff the other DPS, and if it means we have to give a lot less personal DPS, that doesn't really bother me.
Well, just to cut you there, with the whole way the FFLX is working out with the raid DPS, you would get more raid DPS increase because of it now, if you were buffing other classes.
Yeah, but we're not ranking on buffed DPS anymore. We're ranking on personal DPS.
Yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't. The point is, like, I just wanted a smooth experience on Astro, and as soon as they started bringing out the announcements that all cards were going to be single target, my first thought was like, I am fucked on controller. So I went out, I spent $125 on an Xbox Elite controller. I spent another $40 on Scuff Elite paddles. Like I even spent like $70 on the stupid Razer gamepad and tried to do keyboard and mouse with all the determination I could muster,
Oh my
but it
God,
just was
dude.
not fucking working. I blew money to play Astro, and in the end, it still is a garbage class to play. It does not feel good at all, and it's constant clipping. Just White Mage clips too, but it is not nearly as frustrating as it is on Astro.
I mean, White Mage
And
gets
it's
rewarded
kind of-
for its healing, right? Isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you basically want to use your Flatus stuff whenever you're in movement. It's a gain if you have to move and can't cast anyway, but it's a loss if you just use it on cooldown for, their mega move misery. It's it's good for movement though, and in general, having that extra OGCD of healing, so you could basically do like plenary indulgence, Medica 2, and then after your Medica 2, you could do a Flatus Rapture, which is the AoE heal, and that's a big burst. And you can basically like ignore the party for a little bit, but I really enjoy the clutch capabilities of White Mage now. I still would love to see them fix Astro. Like, I still want to be an Astro at the end of the day. I don't want to be a White Mage. I want to be an Astro. I've been an Astro since Midas. And
how do
I
they
just want them...
fix Astro? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like Sora said, divination, just giving you the seals, or don't tie divination to the seal system, would fix it. If you could just give people, even if it wasn't an 8%, give everybody a flat out 6% buff from divination and not require those seals. And I think the addition of minor arcana, it is a benefit if you already have the seals, but to play the class optimally, having to double weave into your minor arcana on the next divinations is just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I just find that to be the clunkiest part of the class. I thought the opener was going to be the clunkiest, but yeah, the minor arcana is just kind of not. It does not feel good to use that at all. And you're also kind of. I do love that they put in the play button. The play button basically puts your draw right on cooldown, so I can sit on a card, although you shouldn't. I can sit on a card till after we're finished healing, or like if there's like a high damage period and I don't have time to throw it out real quick, like I can sit on it and my draw is still charging back up. So
Yeah.
I do like that, and it makes the whole process a little better. But I don't know. I don't see the reward from optimizing Astro as much as I do from White Mage at the moment. And also, not to mention the OGCD healing that you get with Astro right now is way too underpowered. I think if they to entirely fix the class, you could just take divination off of the seal system and boost our OGCD healing. I think that's all it would take, and then people might be more willing to give it a chance. I really don't care about the lower personal DPS. I know everybody who's got a hard on for meta is probably shitting on Astro right now. I personally don't care. I just wanna play the class and enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like everybody wants that for their class. See,
Yeah.
that's like my main advice to Square Enix. Make your jobs fun,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I just feel like at that point, like Astro is not a good. I've always progged as Astro. I never progged as White Mage because Astro, in the past, their OGCD heals, their clutch capability with light speed, it was never an issue. And while Neutral Sect brings a lot to the table, it's still too weak to be trusted for a prog situation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that you have to tie your light speed to divination now. If you use your light speed early, like if people are taking way too much damage, if you got to recover, if you use light speed, your next divination is basically going to be you not DPSing whatsoever in order to get the cards out for everybody. So that's kind of a downside of light speed at the moment. But
So
yeah,
it's kind of it's kind of like I haven't touched Astro yet, but from what I'm hearing, it's kind of like your what I would consider someone's buff window. Like you have a literal buff window
yeah,
where you're literally you hit your light speed and then you throw out cards, but you're doing you're by double weaving in between your stuff.
I mean your Malefics are instant cast, but even still, you're double weaving and it does clip. So
Yeah. You say double weaving, all I hear is internal screaming.
Seriously, it's pretty bad. I mean, I guess in the later divinations, you could just forego doing minor arcana in order to save some clipping, but that's I don't know. In my head, that's not really optimal because you're still gonna have 180 seconds to get those seals, and more than likely, if you're throwing out the first seal you get on your divination window, you're gonna get people who are getting wrong cards. You're gonna get a clusterfuck of seals, and you're gonna be replacing those seals anyway over the next 180 seconds. So it's just optimal to throw it into your minor arcana. But like I said, double weave fucking Clip City. God.
I see. I mean, I've played the healers, but I've never really been like serious about it. I've always done it casually. Like,
Yeah.
when I've played Astro before, I enjoyed using the cards and stuff. Now I'm kind of wondering what it'll be like. But from what I've seen in dungeons, right, is that Astros can't keep up as well as the other two healers.
Oh no, absolutely,
for sure.
absolutely not.
Luckily, I didn't have many run-ins with like horrible tanks right off the bat. I had some pretty good tanks, so the incidents didn't really happen for me except for when I fucking let Sif die on the first dungeon.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
We went
Oh,
into
no.
freaking Aurum Vale. It was the first
no.
time I was going into a dungeon with all the Astro changes, and I let Sif die.
Oh, you'll love you'll love our reaction of my reaction of the twinning when I did that dungeon the first time and Sora was there with Sif. Oh boy,
Yeah.
feel him die twice because he was playing Astro
So
Yeah.
basically, it's just a lot of effort for not.
for not a lot. Yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna make a job, I don't mind you making a job difficult to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind that. Like I said with Dark Knight, I don't mind you making it require effort and forethought, but there does need to be a reward there.
Yeah.
So if the reward is that the Astro is what you want to use for buff in the party, then the buffs to the party need to be, significant enough to justify the effort they're putting in to do that. So
I feel like the only reward on Astro right now is when you actually execute your opener. It's the chances of you screwing up your opener because there's so much going on is just so high. And granted, like I'm trying to get divination as fast as I possibly can, and that means maybe throwing not the optimal card on. I'll give Jin a ranged card because I already carded everybody else or something like that. And you could probably take your time a little more, but I don't know. Just getting your opener out and not screwing it up is what's rewarding about the class right now, and it shouldn't be that way.
So Reggie.
So I said we were going to talk about Melee, but we've reached like 50 minutes. So I'm wondering, Jin, so you don't like feel rushed, would you mind we talk about Melee next? Well, next time we'll talk about Melee. We'll talk about caster, and if we can fit it in, we'll talk about ranged.
That's fine.
doesn't feel like we've talked that long.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
I know.
it went by pretty quick. So, which is good, because we had a lot of engaging conversations. So, so my thing, that really does suck with the Astrologian, because I actually I started maining Astrologian at the end of mid Heavensward 3.3, and then I did Astrologian until I realized that Scholar was just the overall better pick when you had a white mage in the group. So, and then when Toasty and I started raiding together, it just made sense for me to just stay in that Scholar position. And I like it. I think the new Scholar is he's not really that bad. I think it sucks that I can't really keep up with white mages anymore. It was kind of funny when we first started raiding, I'm like I wasn't really used to Scholar because I'd mostly played Summoner, in the dungeon, so I was still kind of getting used to Scholar, but fuck half-assing it, like I was keeping up with Toasty no problem, and Toasty's fucking sitting there sweating her balls off trying to just to perform at like a top performance, and I'm just like, just fucking, Then she goes on white mage, and I'm like, oh, like I can't. 2,000 over me. I'm like, oh my god, I suck. And then come to realize that white mage just towers over both the other healers in damage. But
It's not you, it's me.
yeah, I am kind of a little disappointed with. So Scholars really, when you start playing it in a high performance setting, you realize that you don't really have to sweat healing that much, because your opener is basically like XCOG, deploy shields, bring out the Seraph, do the big Seraph shield, cognitation or whatever it's called. That's the crit heal thing. But you know, because both the trials they do AoEs right away. You can just like ignore it with like a Whispering Dawn. You don't have to do anything. And then after that, when your 30 seconds are up on your biolysis and you're reapplying it, you just double weave some stuff. Like, you know, I'll do like a Sacred Soil or do an Excog. And then you just go back to doing broils. So it's kind of different where, you know, in Stormblood, you had to maintain the 2 dots and you had to focus on doing the broils. And now it's really just, you know, how many OGCD heals can I weave in a Swift cast and a biolysis? As soon as those come off of cooldown, like, you know, how do I plan this out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so once it got to that point, it was just kind of like, you know, I'm stressing so much about like trying to, you know, keep up with the best, right? And then I realized, well, it's not that hard.
No, it's not.
But not saying I'm the best. I'm getting there.
You're doing a lot better. I like over the course of the last like 3 weeks, you've really come into Scholar a lot. I don't think you. I know this sounds fucking bad, but I think you're like at a peak right now.
Yeah, you're actually in your comfort zone now with the job. Every time you fucking complain in UCOV, you couldn't do things right properly, and now you can.
Thanks for outing
And
me
then
like that.
I mean, I'm giving you a compliment.
No.
Our combined healing DPS is through the roof, in my opinion. I think we're doing really good.
And that's actually the most important thing to me is, you know, I actually look at the team healing first before I look at my personal healing, because it's one thing if like one of us has like an orange and the other one's like a purple, but there's another thing if like we both have orange and that like team, you know, that team looks good. Because like, you know, even like, you know, sometimes Toasty just sleeps and has an orange, right? So it's really up to me to have that you know, to get where I need to be. But like our team healing is always like really good, or our team DPS is always like really good. And so even though like mine might be lower at that moment, you know, it's humbling to know that you know, our rank is high.
Yeah.
But
and I do appreciate your call outs to plan healing lately.
Oh yeah.
It's really helped improve us
about
overall.
it too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's helped me a lot too, because so what she's talking about is when we're raid. If you haven't watched our stream, when we raid, Toasty's very all about the vocals. She likes it when right before I'm about to like biolysis or like Swiftcast, I'm like, okay, on the next OGCD, I'm gonna do this and this. You know, kind of tells her like what the tanks are gonna get, what the party's gonna get, because like it's a waste to have her do a a Flatus Rapture, right? It's a waste of doing a Flatus Rapture if I'm just gonna have a Sacred Soil put up that's just gonna get everybody topped off. Or if I'm a Whispering Dawn, or if I've got you know, some kind of Fey Illumination, something going up, you know, she doesn't have to worry about that. And for the most part, when you guys watch me play, you guys know I'm like super quiet, I'm like super focused, I'm like super zoned in. So like that's kind of taking a little bit of work on my part.
Yeah. You did well.
But yeah, I don't know. I like Scholar. I think it's in a good spot. Please don't nerf my Sacred Soil. And it's coming. But could you please maybe bring White Mage down just a little bit? So that's but anyway, that's kind of my that's all I've really had. You know, I've played White Mage. I leveled it up to 80. And the job is fantastic compared, because you know, when I leveled it in Stormblood, I was like, this sucks. I hate playing this.
Yeah.
It's boring, right? And I will say though, when I was leveling it, I was kind of falling asleep a little bit with like the holies and stuff like that. But when it came to the boss fights, they were much more interesting.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with Gunbreaker. When I'm playing it, and it's like under 60, I just want to fall asleep. But
Yep.
like literally, I have a physiological reaction where I'm just like, oh, this shit again. You know?
Yep.
But does anybody have any healer questions before I wrap up the show?
Didn't you say you have a lot of fucking trouble with the way you don't have any way to dump your ether stacks or your ether flow?
Oh yeah. Okay, so that is one I completely forgot about that. So one thing that sucks about Aetherflow is that with how I described how I've been healing is that you don't go through those stacks fast enough. And before, if you had extra stacks, you could do energy drain,
Mm-hmm.
and then you reapply your stacks.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do that anymore, and it's a waste to do to stop what you're doing and doing like lustrate or like something like that. So what
Yeah.
I've been doing is I basically have just waited until I'm out of Aetherflow stacks, and then I do Aetherflow when I'm double weaving to get the stacks back.
Oh.
So it's like I'm kind of missing out on the MP from not reapplying the Aetherflow every time, but
Yeah.
I lose damage if I waste it. So it's but yeah, I would man, I'd appreciate some kind of dump, maybe I don't know, like reapply Aetherflow and just like give it to the fairy, I don't know, man. I don't know how you'd fix something like that without, because we're so used to having a DPS like dump basically.
Yeah.
And now we can't do that. So, I mean,
I don't understand why they did that, honestly.
No, I don't know, man.
It did create a huge GPS disparity between scholars that are doing like speed and scholars that are just padding by using energy drain all the time and not healing.
Yeah.
I don't understand having resources and not being able to use them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because when I very casually leveled scholar, and even in a dungeon while the tank is pulling multiple packs, like I think I was still sitting on Aetherflow stacks, and I was like, why is this
Yeah.
a thing? And then
I want to level it.
it comes off cooldown, and I'm like, okay, I use it. I kind of just like dump Xcog in the sacred soil, or something, and so I can use it, so I can use the cooldown. And then when you get blocked when you're not in battle, it just feels bad. So can't pop it out of battle.
Yeah, Ray has a good point. Add energy drain back, but remove the damage. So you would still get like the MP boost,
Mm.
and it's a way to. Yeah, that would actually be really good.
That's my friend Ray Harumi from Sargatanis. Really good white mage.
Oh, Ray Harumi.
Yeah, he was at our wedding. He was the only legend there. So,
Nice you.
actually, Ray and I have been talking behind the scenes, and I'm thinking about bringing him in the next show as a co-host.
That'd be good.
Yeah, dude.
Nice.
Which, anybody watching the show, if you guys want to hang out with us, we we had Popo on here. He's one of our FC leaders, and yeah, we don't mind that at all. We want to hear from community, and we don't care if you're casual, raider or anything in between. Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like hanging with people. So, does anybody have any other last thoughts before I wrap the show up?
Not for now.
Okay. Well-
have fun and Savage, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited.
So Toasty's gonna be streaming. Reggie's gonna be streaming. Sipes gonna be streaming. I think Jin said he was gonna be recording because he likes making collabs of us being asses.
Oh my god, they're hilarious.
The Trump one is the best. I am directly involved in that, so it's hilarious.
Oh.
Yeah.
Crap. What was I saying? Oh yeah. And then I think Mama Cat's gonna be streaming as well. So we're gonna have half the group's gonna be streaming. So if you want to see us get
Destroyed.
get wrecked,
Get wrecked.
Yeah. If you're at school or you're bored or something, you can come hang out with us. But like I said before, we kind of took a hiatus. We were pretty regular about the show for the first 9 episodes, and now that things have kind of slowed down and Shadowbringer, the Savage prep is wrapped up, we will work on maintaining a regular schedule. And the next time we come in, we'll be talking about melee, we'll be talking about caster, and then if we got time, we'll talk about ranged, and hopefully we can get Sora in on that. I'm sure he's probably bummed out he didn't get to talk about Astrologian, but I'll give him a chance next time. So
That'll be the whole hour. So.
right.
Whole hour of talking about Astro.
He can do it. Don't underestimate him.
Hey man, the guy's got a voice. He likes to talk, so it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. But anyway, this has been a Misfortunate podcast. Appreciate everybody that's joined us in chat. I'd like to thank my hosts, my hosts, Jay Black, Jin
Hey.
Woo, Jin Woo,
Bye.
and the lovely Toasty.
Yeah, I just fucking came in here to say hi. Bye.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
The